the introductions, the check-ins won't be so quick, won't be so long next time. It's just I wanted to give everybody the opportunity for us to understand who's who in the zoo, because this process is very personal. Make money, have fun, change the world. The have fun part means that it has to help you become a better version of you. It's not just an idea, it's not just altruistic contribution to society, it's your own journey as well. So it's important that we know who's who, not least because certainly for those of us at Bertinia, but generally in the Comlink family, we now have 6 intrapreneurs who've graduated from this process, and they've told me that they're all happy to act as mentors for you. So it's often the case that people actually get something out of repeating this process a second time. In fact, many of you will know Michaela, who's one of the graduating intrapreneurs. She has another idea. And I said, well, you've got the tools now, use the tools. And she may do the whole process again. This time not accredited, because when you come to these tools the first time, they should be immediately and apparently useful. But when you come to them the second time, particularly when you know how they join up with the others, you can actually see different things in your own ideas. But there we have it. We have mentors on tap. And I'll talk about the personal connection and the gas groups again in a minute. It's unsurprising for me when people check in and they talk about success factors, that the 2 words that I keep sifting out of this are clarity and action. I've got an idea, but it's really fuzzy. Success will be when I clarify that idea, when I actually get it down to something that can work. And action means applicability. I will be successful when these ideas actually turn into something that's practical. And all of this, and that's music to my ears, because all of this is designed with that in mind. It's designed to be really action-oriented and clarifying, a process of clarifying over time. Don't be too fast if it's a little bit overwhelming at the beginning. I'm going to hit you with quite a bit tonight, including what I'm going to suggest to you are the 3 key tools. The 3 tools which, if you take away nothing else, you need to take away. Don't be upset, or don't judge yourself if you don't yet achieve that success. It's a process. I think Michaela used this as a bit of a sort of catchphrase in the first one, like trust the process, you know. This is a process that is tried and true. I don't think we've ever really had a dropout from this course, unless it was pressing family reasons, and etc. And the reason for that is that it's my business now to help you succeed in your own terms, in the terms that you tell me is success, not in somebody else's terms, not in the government's terms, not even in Comlink's terms, but in yours. And I will put in the extra time that is required. That's my commitment to you. Okay, so I'm recording this now, and the recordings of these sessions will be in a Dropbox. Tomorrow I'll send you a Dropbox link with the recordings. I won't share the folder with you, because then Dropbox wants to put it on your computer, and these recordings are savagely long, they're gigabytes. So it's a matter of just going to Dropbox and pulling down the file if you'd like to revise this or any other session that we run. I'll also send you a Dropbox link to download the slides that I'm going to show you. So don't feel like you've got to scribble notes on each slide. You'll actually get these slides and every other slide deck that I use in this process. I'll also give you a link to Dropbox to the sort of compliance requirements. The government requires me, but particularly ALA, to show you what the course is about, what competencies you're about to learn, how it fits together in government terms. Because the Certificate 3, which you'll come away from this with, is validated official education. So I'm going to share my screen again now, and I'm going to start really with some general principles. housekeeping first. You will have received this. I think most people will have seen this schedule, but I've put them into the slides so that they're a matter of record for you to refer to. Basically, we're starting now and we finish on the first Thursday of December with a pitch session. And I know that some people would rather die than talk in public, but I'm looking at you, Steph. But trust me and trust the process that by the time we get to that point, you will be able to stand up and give us your idea in a nutshell. And those of us who are on the leadership retreat recently at Comlink heard Michaela and Kerry do exactly that. And Michaela herself was just shitting bricks about talking in public. She still does, but it's easier now, having done that.
For the presentation, do I come to the sunny coast or do I do it over?
No, I think we'll bring you up to the sunny coast, and yours is a particular case because you're off campus, as it were. We'll sort of discuss that case by case, Steph, because I need you to be connecting with these people about your idea as well. So we need to decide whether that's in person or whether that's on Zoom or Skype or something. Comlink has did in the past and will again incentivize this for you. So if it turns out that you need a morning off work or some time to actually contribute to put into this, then through me we can negotiate that with management. So that will include a trip to the sunny coast to present on that Thursday. In your case, Steph. These are the deadlines that I am suggesting. Oops, no. This is a way of thinking of that same slide. So this is the program. This is what conceptually I'm working on with you. I'm working on 3 sets of tools. Now tools, where tools, and how tools. And I'll explain the logic of that in a second. But we basically work through in that logic, now to where to how. Holistic at the end is really just a jargon term for bringing it all together. What I mean by application phase 2 will make more sense to you at the end of this. This slide is really for you to refer to in future. I don't expect you to make that much sense of it at the moment. But over this period between now and the end of November, you will learn, I think the last count, because I've just reformatted these, is about 20 decision-making tools, the first 3 of which you will learn tonight. When you aggregate the results of those tools, or you take the results of those tools and in dot points put them on a 1-page plan, I'll show you what that looks like in a second. A 1-page business plan becomes the core working document for your project. The application phase just means there's a bit of a gap between the 5th webinar and the 6th one. It's 31st of October to the 21st of November. For you to actually try out the ideas, or for you to have the option of trying out the ideas. For example, some people like at that stage to do a bit of market research, to actually take the idea and actually put it in front of people and say, what do you think? Or what should this cost? Or what color should I produce this in? That sort of feedback. All of this is the process. And I don't expect, as above, I don't expect you to understand it all yet. I ask you to trust me, not to disappoint you in this. Now, I've sketched in some deadlines. I'm not the kind of teacher who's going to police this. I don't particularly care when you deliver what you deliver, so long as you deliver it by the end of the course. In the last delivery, we had one person who did that, who left everything to the last minute. I think that if you do it that way, then it shows because you're rushed. Because of that, I'm suggesting some deadlines that are kind of calibrated to the dates that I just showed you, these dates, so they're sort of related to that, where I'm asking you to essentially upload, there's 5 documents that you need to upload in this course. Now documents, where documents, how documents, a cash flow Excel spreadsheet, and I don't know if any of you shuddering at the word Excel. Some people do. And the one-page plan itself. Again, don't sweat it if that is gobbledygook to you at the moment. It will become clear. You don't need to stick to these deadlines, as I say. I'm not going to police them, but I think if you do plan your time so that you're actually delivering these deliverables by those deadlines, you'll find it a much smoother process than if you tend to put it off to the end. And yes, I know that we have work and we have families and etc. So now that's the sort of information, and there'll be other information that ALA is sending to you and that I'm required to give to you as well. Here's some principles for the pedagogy, for the way that we're actually going to be learning together. And you'll need to actually cross your right leg over your left to do this. You'll need to physically do this, okay? Where you're sitting, cross your right leg over your left, and with your big toe, draw a circle. Imagine that you've actually got a piece of chalk on your big toe and you're drawing a circle in the air with your big toe. I can't check whether you're doing this. If we're in person, I could actually check this. While you are doing that, simultaneously draw the number 6 with your pointer finger. Do both things together. Is there anybody who can't do that? Now, you've all got your microphones turned off. I'm hoping this works the same now as it does when we do it in person. It's impossible. You know, your 6s are starting to look like 8s. You're not drawing a circle with your toe anymore. Your circle's going backwards, whatever it is. I'm saying it's impossible because our brains are just not wired to do this. The way that our brain is split, the way our motor control works, it's not natural. There are some things in the world that are just not natural. We know, try as hard as we might, we'll never actually get it. Like names for me, people's names. I need to meet people generally 2 or 3 dozen times before I remember their name. You know, it's just a part of my brain that's been burned out. Other things can be learned. Okay, so anybody with a mic turned on, can you describe this picture to me? Just what's in the picture? Don't be shy. Switch your microphone on, tell me.
Discussion, family time.
Family time. Thank you, Jay. And I appreciate your courage. Who's in the picture? What's in the picture? A dog, perhaps? Really, that's all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for anything profound. A dog?
They look like twins.
Okay. How many women?
2 women.
2 women. Where are they sitting?
Identical, 3 nearly identical men. But one.
Got to be family. Where are they physically sitting?
In the lounge room, maybe, or outside.
Most people, when I talk about this, will locate them in a room somewhere where the square over the second woman's head is seen as a window, and the shape up on the top is seen as the corner of a room and the roof. People who come from developing countries do not see them as indoors. They see them as outdoors. They see the object that I just talked about as a tree, and the square object on the woman's head as a billy can or some sort of water carrying thing, because they carry water on their heads. The only point is that our perception of the world is channeled. We learn to see the world in certain ways, and there are some ways that we can learn to unsee the world. So by showing you these, I'm just trying to emphasize that there are some things that come naturally to us, and there's some things that we learn, that we inherit by virtue of our culture, our language, our gender, whatever it is, the way that we grew up. I'm interested in the things that we can learn and unlearn. I can't learn how to remember people's names. I've tried all the tricks. I just can't do it, you know. But I can do other things. I have memories of other things. So that's one principle. We're working on what we can change. We're working with what is pliable and malleable and learnable in ourselves. This phrase emerged at a residential workshop. We're doing some entrepreneurial work with young people. We gave them chalk, and they had these covered walkways of concrete, covered walkways between buildings, and asked them to write things, draw things, whatever. Somebody wrote this. I think somebody famous might have said this, but I don't know. It's just become a bit of a meme with Edgeware, and it relates to that point that I made at the beginning about clarity. If you are unclear about anything in the journey we're about to take, with any of your ideas, find a way to try it out. Find a way to put it in the marketplace and actually see whether it works. Get some feedback from real consumers, from real customers, from real end users. Because as they say in small business anyway, your customer knows more about your business than you do. I had an ex-Edgy, a guy whose business was maritime safety aids and goods, who actually got his, I think it was his wife or his mum or his aunt, I'm not sure who, to embroider this on a piece of cloth. He has that framed and he's got it on the wall in front of him. He uses this as a kind of article of faith. Action precedes clarity. If I'm feeling fuzzy, what can I do to become clearer, to help the world clarify what I'm into? First principle, we're talking about quite complex stuff sometimes, but we can simplify. We simplify by applying the 80-20 rule, which many of you will have come across. 20% of the stuff I can do will give me 80% of the result I'm looking for. 20% of the functions in the software that I'm using, I'll use 80% of the time. 20% of my customers will generate 80% of my revenue. It's never exactly 80-20, but it is to say that we don't need to dot every I and cross every T when we're planning a business. We have to have the capacity to change very quickly, but we need to make choices to simplify our ideas so we end up with the 20% that is the high value stuff. And the third principle is the notion of value. Yonks ago, we'd get feedback from people, particularly in the community sector and the arts, who'd be saying, look, business is not for me. I don't do business. I'm creative. You know, God made me an artist at birth. Or I don't do business because I'm here to help people. Now, that's all true. And I've never said do business, don't help people, or do business, don't do art. It's as well as rather than instead of. And a way to understand that is to suggest that what we're in the business of doing in our businesses is generating value. Sometimes that value can be measured financially, and in fact, that's what makes it a business, but it can also be generated socially, culturally, politically, even spiritually. That is, we're in the business of bringing something of value into the world. How do we know that it has value? Because there's somebody who tells us that. How do we know that? Because action precedes clarity. I've asked them, and they've told me they see value in my thing. So we're in the process now of deciding what is the 20% in all of this fog of ideas that I have that is most valuable for a customer, and how do I actually develop that? In the process, I end up with something that's as simple as a one-page plan, and I'll show you some examples of that at the moment. So I'm going to suggest that I want you to be clever and lazy. This is actually a grid that my graphics, but when they were inventing the German army, Bismarck, the Generalissimo, was asked, you know, what kind of officers, what kind of people are we looking for in the officer class? And there was this grid, hardworking to lazy on one spectrum, clever to stupid on the other. And the kind of obvious answer to that question, what kind of person is going to be an officer in the army, was clever and hardworking. The consultant at the time said, no, you want clever and lazy, because the clever and lazy officer is looking for the shortcut, is looking for the delegation, is looking for the quick way to get the same job done, because he wants to go and sit under a tree and have a beer. That's the way I want you to think about this work. Don't overwork it. If you believe in it, if it's meaningful for you, you will put in the hours. That just happens. But imagine that you were really lazy. If I was really lazy, what would be the quick way to do this? What would be the shortcut? What would be the way to get to the 20% that I need to get to? Don't feel like you've got to do the whole 100%, including the tools that I'm about to show you. If a tool turns out to be irrelevant or not useful for you, then don't use it. You know, I don't demand that you read every page in the curriculum. Be smart and lazy. And I mention this because I'll come back to this, because sometimes we get so excited and so obsessed about our idea that we can lose the forest for the trees. All right, so I talked about now, where, how. And this is the way a lot of planning goes. We start with a now, we start with a situation analysis. What am I doing right now? What are my resources? Who's my customer? What's the message that I need to get to the customer? How do I produce my donuts? How do I, what time of day do I open? A lot of really practical stuff that's based in the situation we find ourselves. And very often from there, we start to brainstorm different things that we can do that will make that business happen, that will get those donuts to that customer. Now, with this process, we go slightly differently. So we start in the now, for sure, and there's a set of tools, 3 of which I'll share with you tonight. But then we jump to the where. Now, the where is the desired future, the preferred future. If your idea happened, if you went to sleep one night and your fairy godmother waved her wand over your house and you woke up and your idea was on the ground, how would you know? What would you notice that was different, that now that your idea is actually up and running in the world? So it's not quite goal setting, it's more a visioning sort of exercise. But the fact is, and the science for this now, that if we start with the end in mind, we make more effective decisions in the now. You might have noticed high jumpers, long jumpers in the Olympics. Before they even start their run, their head sort of bobs like this. They have been coached to imagine the perfect jump before they even move. And there's a reason for that. If they can actually imagine the perfect jump, their chances of getting towards that jump multiply. So, first set of tools, what we're starting tonight now, then a set of tools which are about the where, and finally a set of tools which are about the how. So the now, the where, and the how. The how is a really practical, measurable, quantifiable set of things to do. That's the operational part of the plan. The how strategies, the how actions that you come up with will help you move from where you're at now in the direction of that wonderful world that has your idea in it. What we'll see then at the end of it is one page. In the center of that page is a value proposition, which we're going to get to later in this session. But there's 3 boxes, a now box, a where box, and a how box. So this is the final deliverable of all of this learning, a summary from all of the tools that you've learned in the now, all of the tools you've learned in the where, and all of the tools you've learned in the how, where you can actually see your business plan take flight. A lot of business plans are 40, 60 pages of A4 that are more or less relevant and topical when they're finished, and they go into a filing cabinet and they're never looked at again. This is designed to be blown up, stuck on the wall of your workplace, and consulted every day. So planning is a process that we should be thinking about in business, not for profit or for profit, every day. So the tools that you'll learn, and I don't want to unpack these, we'll learn them soon enough, all sit in one of those 3 boxes or in the value proposition, which we get to today. And the products can look like this. So this is a guy as a designer, you can tell it's all pretty, up on the beach. He's got a now, a where, and a how, and you'll notice his how down the bottom is broken into 4 sections. The logic for that we'll come to eventually. This is a furniture designer. And again, she's called it different things, but it's still now, where, and how. This is an architecture firm. These guys are doing really well, but you can see the sort of brains that they had. Different format, but still now, where, and how. This is the sort of cool cats at the old ambulance station. They ran a sort of shop for skate, tiki bar, sort of postmodern youth stuff, hence the colours. Now, where, and how. This is an alternative health practitioner up in Gympie who's into kinesiology and herbs and crystals and all of that stuff. She did a whole card crystal reading of her business, which and you can still see underneath that, there's still the now, where, and how. I don't understand what that means, but I don't have to, because she did this for herself. It's meaningful for her. And bottom line is, this plan should be meaningful for you as the mum or dad of the plan. Ultimately, the audience is you, not me, not Comlink or whatever. You have to understand this sufficiently to be able to convince me that I should invest in it or spend time on it or think about it, what have you. This is a young man who lives up in Gympie who has nested disabilities. He's non-verbal, he requires 24-hour care. He came to a workshop with his carer, and his concept was seedlings, out of season organic seedlings that his dad's an organic farmer, that he would sprout, and he would go to markets and sell these seedlings. His name is Tim, and he succeeded. Last year I talked to his dad, and Tim bought his first. He never wanted to make a living, and he couldn't, in fact. He was just looking for the cash component that he could actually make that didn't affect his benefit. This was his one-page plan, Tim's Blooming Healthy Seedling Supplies. It's a 3-year plan. I talked to his dad, not yet, it was the year before last. And Tim has just bought his first van, which has got room in the back for stacks of seedlings and him in his chair. And that means he's been able to expand his market from sort of local markets to farmers markets more broadly. So Tim can do this, okay? Tim is turning this stuff into a business. And if he can do it, then so can you, so can I. This is a different format from the one that you're all going to work on, because you're working on the brand new dolled up Edgeware toolset. But this is Kerry Wall's one-page plan. So Kerry is a Comlink colleague whose idea was Nourishment Network, which is a kind of take on soup kitchens. So it's where people who need a feed can come, I think initially she's thinking once a month, back to once a fortnight, and sit as they would in a restaurant, not lined up with stuff slopped onto a tray as they pass, but a restaurant with a menu which they can choose from, so they can sit down and have an experience as well as a feed. There's all sorts of overlaps with other ideas. Michaela's idea was for a community garden, which I think can talk to this. We're also talking to Orange Sky Laundry that does laundry, washes people's clothes and stuff on the street, and also a Sunny Coast group called Mel and Tammy, you might know this, Happy Street, I think. It's medical and nursing services delivered to people who need them on the street. So this is what Kerry produced. Ultimately, you'll produce something of this kind. It should be very simple to look at, but if you ask Kerry to explain this to you, she'll bend your ear for half an hour. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of thinking that goes behind this. But remember, smart and lazy. Do the minimum that you can to get the outcome that you're looking for. We have these things called gas groups because we noticed when we were delivering this in person that people kind of got all excited when they were turning over their ideas, and they'd tend to peel off and have coffees or beers afterwards. So we just noticed that and wrapped some thinking around it, and we call them gas groups now. Group activity session, group action sessions, or sometimes group accountability sessions. So this is about, and I won't go back to that slide that showed the timetable, but this is about you guys getting together without me, without the expert, without the teacher, to just swap ideas and touch base about how you're going. Mel and Temi are going to do that anyway because they're working on the same thing, but we really encourage people to get together in person, offline, to talk about this. And again, I need to talk with you, Steph, about how you engage with the others in this group. The reason is that this process becomes quite tribal. I think it's because there's so much of our personal values invested in this, and because not only I, but everybody else in this group is here to help you succeed. It becomes quite, we had a sort of meal together with one group once, and somebody brought their partner, and their partner leaned over and said, "This is a bit culty," you know? And I took it as a compliment, because it is. We should be helping each other without making judgments of each other. Well, not only should be, but that turns out to be the case. This is why people end up calling themselves edgies. Edgy was not my idea. It was just the sort of tribal idea that stuck. So even if you ask the people at Comlink that did this already, I think they'd be happy to own the phrase Comlink edgies, because it's a certain kind of head that is attracted to this kind of work. And when we notice that in each other, then we find a bond. There's also online courseware that I'll give you access to, that Edgeware has. Typically, people don't take that up because they don't have enough time, but it is an option if you want to get involved in that. And in fact, Amanda worked with us on that some years ago. These are the tools, won't go into that. This is the courseware. Again, you don't need to write it down now, but that's the URL for these online courses. We put them, they're commercial, that you can buy, but that coupon, once you register, will give you free access to those courses. Build Your Business, the one on the right, is essentially the course, one version of the course we're going to do right now. Build Your Prosperity is about the money and the financial aspects of planning a business, and Build Your Resilience is about personal development and personal strength, surviving the growth of your own business. Each one of those uses the same now, where, how logic. And again, you have access to these slides. So as and when you find that useful, just go to that URL, register, enter the coupon, and you'll have access for free. I'm hoping that Susanna will be able to join me for the financial elements of this. One of my many weaknesses is finances. I actually did this. I taught this myself I might give it to you, Amanda. I taught this myself last time, and nobody really complained. Maybe they weren't going to. It's not one of my strengths. I really like to bring Susanna into it, but Susanna's really busy these days as well, but fingers crossed. This is what the government thinks you're doing. So you're becoming competent in 10 different ways in this course. Those are all the competencies. And very often, if you were to do courses like this at places like TAFE, we would start with core unit BMB 301, investigate microbusiness opportunities. I would give you a paper to read. You would go away, read that paper, then you would come back and I would set you a multiple choice exam. You would tick the boxes. I would give you a mark out of 10, and then we would go on to number 302, develop a micro, etc. I don't think that's a very useful way to learn this kind of skill set, but through a fairly tortured process, we have mapped our now, where, and how tools to this. So our RTO is notoriously anal retentive in matters like this, because they can be audited, has okayed this, and government has okayed this. So you'll be able to legitimately claim that you have these competencies, and the certificate 3 that you eventually receive will have these competencies on the back as proof that you are competent in these areas. I can explain any and all of this if you're really interested, and I bet you're not. I can barely keep my eyes open looking at it myself. You should see the paperwork, really. The paperwork is outrageous. The personal journey, I want to emphasize this. That's why I showed you the pictures before. I had you drawing circles with your toe. This should take you somewhere where you want to go. This should be a GIF. Oh yes, it's working. So here's a question for you. Is that train going into the tunnel or out? Coming out?
Depends where you look.
Yeah. So tell us, Steph, where are you looking? And is it going in or out?
It's going in if I look close to the right side, and then if I look through to the tunnel, it goes out.
Okay. Is that the case with everybody? Can everybody see? It's typical that we see it one way, and then we go, it could be the other. Yeah. And we flip a little switch in our heads, right? It's okay if you don't see it. Again, you'll have the slides. You can play this endlessly in your own free time. My point is that the reality is something that we create. Reality, perhaps there is something called consensus reality out there. I'm not sure I've ever seen it. We make our own reality. So the entrepreneur, the intrapreneur that you see yourself here as is the intrapreneur that you will become. That's what I mean by personal journey. You can make your train go into the station or come out of the station. And these tools are a platform for you to do that. All right, I want to get to the tools now. All of that was background. Are there any questions at this stage? Or comments? I'm just scrolling through my little set of windows to make sure everybody's still there. Okay. Okay, so I'm not hearing that. I'm taking that as permission to proceed.
Yes.
So now, has anybody not had access to download the tools that look like this? Is there anybody who does not have this particular tool in front of them? No, I'm not hearing that. I'm assuming that everybody's had access to these. When we do this in person, there's a printed booklet, and each booklet now, where and how, have these cute quotes on the front of them. What we're going to do today is look at the first three now tools. And as I said at the beginning, in my view, these are the three most important of the lot. Certainly the three that we use a lot in our own business. Before we do that, this is not one of the tools, but this is something that you might care to reflect on or use. The usefulness of this is that it asks us about the purpose of what we're doing. Like, what on earth are you trying to do with this business? What on earth are you trying to do with this idea? Why? Why should this idea exist? Why should your business exist? Why should this thing happen? So Simon Sinek, you'll see the copyright notice down the bottom, has a book called Start with the Why. And he uses, in one of his talks, he's got a big internet presence. You can check out his talks. I'd recommend him. I think he's really good value. He compares Dell Computer and Apple Computer. Okay? So mostly, for most businesses and most people too, if you ask us, particularly men, you ask us to describe ourselves, tell me about yourself, Paul. We'll start very often with what we do, with what the world sees, with what our job is. My name's Michael and I'm a plumber, So translated to Dell Computer, what does your company do? We sell computers. If I want to dig past the surface of that, I'll ask, how do you do that? How do you do the what? And Dell Computer would say something like, You have an innovative business case. You can buy computers directly from the web. We'll ship to you direct. We'll save all sorts of money so we can sell a superior product at a good price. Digging further, why do you do that? And this is typically where business ideas, including ours at this stage, probably get fuzzy. Like Dell would say, profit, benefit for shareholders, something like that. Reverse the process. And he uses Apple Computer to do this. So Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, getting stoned in the garage behind Steve Wozniak's mum's house, inventing the Apple I. Why? But Jobs said back at that stage, Apple Computer exists to put a dent in the universe. Okay, and that's typical of why statements. Why statements are very often really simple and almost poetic. So let's go out from the why. Starting with the why, Apple exists to put a dent in the universe. How? How are you going to put a dent in the universe? Well, we're going to invest a lot into research and development, into computer interfaces. What do you do? Or what do you do that does that? We sell computers. That is, in other words, Dell and Apple at the level of the what are in the same business. But Sinek says that one of those businesses is built to last and the other one is not. The one that has a really strong sense of why, has an answer to the question why. So this isn't a tool that you need to submit or whatever, but it's very simple and very difficult, particularly when you get to that why statement. Particularly if I was to suggest that you say that you make that statement in one sentence or less. Why does your business exist? Why does your idea exist? Why should it exist? I mentioned before the principle of value. In my view, any and every business plan should answer 4 questions. First question, what is it? What is the thing of value you are going to bring into the world through this business? Second, who is it for? Who is the person who is going to benefit, who's going to enjoy, who's going to profit from, who's going to be part of the value that you've created? Third question, what does that person see in what it is? What does who it's for see in what it is? What's the nature of the value that they see? Fourth question, what makes it different? Why should I spend my money on righteous dollar on your business rather than somebody else's? Now, I want to suggest to you that if you have answers to those 4 questions, then you have a business. Or put another way, and when I say business, I'm talking intrapreneur, I'm talking about the business idea for Comlink as a business, okay? Put another way, if you do not have answers for those 4 questions, then you do not have a business. Every single business that you can think of, particularly the successful ones, can answer those questions. And typically, remember the simple proposition, those answers are simple. They're plain English and they're simple words. They don't need to be fancy. You might get all excited about the idea, but your customer or your investor or your grant body isn't interested. They just want you to get to the guts of it. So different people will be at a different stages at the moment, but every business, including your business idea, generates heaps of value. It generates a lot, and things of value, I'm going to say number 1 is a product, number 2 is a customer. Your business will generate heaps of things of value. So if my idea for a business is a bakery, I'm going to generate things to eat, coffee, pleasant service and experience, a wonderful ambience or whatever. All of these things are things of value. Who is it for? Well, it's for everybody. Everybody eats. Well, that's true, but some people are more likely to put their hands in their pocket for those things of value you just told me about. Some people are going to be more appropriate than others. And in fact, some of those things are going to be, some of those products are going to be more important than others. Remember, a bakery can be a lot of products, but one of them is going to have more value than the others to you as the baker. Similarly, one of those customers is going to be more important to you than the rest for you as a baker. So this tool, this very first tool, is about isolating who the key customer is and what the key product is. Imagine that, well, I could take Emma's business, say. Emma offers training, she offers consultancy, she offers a range of services in her business. At any given time, one of those is going to be more important than the others, and it's going to be more important to her for a reason. Very often with startups, that reason is money. I'm interested in this product or this service because it's going to generate some money, and money is the thing I don't have enough of. That's a really common one. Similarly, Emma can deliver those services to government, to not-for-profits, to private sector, to community groups, to Indigenous, to mainstream, to a whole range of different customers. But again, one of those customers is going to be more important to her than the others right now, and there is going to be a reason for that. So this first tool is about answering that question. What's your key customer? What's your key product? What's your key thing of value? And who's your key customer? And the example I'm going to give you is using the old format. This is the tool that you would have seen in the last delivery. This is the one you're seeing now. You'll actually be able to write into these. They're PDFs, but the pale blue squares can be written into. My recommendation to you is that you do not write into them through a web browser, that you download these as separate documents, as separate PDFs, and you open them with a PDF viewer, the most common of which is Acrobat, the Acrobat Reader, and you fill them inside Acrobat. Now, I make that note before I forget it, because the last time we had two people who just opened them and they defaulted to open in the web browser, in Chrome or whatever it was. They filled them in and saved them through the web browser, but it made what they filled in invisible if you weren't looking through a web browser. And there was some grief-stricken exchanges about having lost work and etc. So I'm going to show you the example in the old format, but it maps to the new format. You'll see a row across the top called customer groups, and a column down the side called product or service group. So imagine that you're in a bowling alley. These are all the products that you can produce in your business. So it might be a bucket list, but it might also be reconnection with family. It might be human connection with other people. It might be, there's a range of different products that you can offer. Imagine that each of those is a 10 pin in a bowling alley. And if I want to knock down all of those 10 pins, the one I need to aim at is the one at the front. Similarly, in the bakery, I can sell those custard tarts to men, to women, to children, to families, to grandmas. There's a whole range of different people that I can sell them to, but one of them is going to be the key pin right at the start. So I want to knock down the front pin because there'll be a ricochet effect on the others, and because I'm smart and lazy. So the example I'm going to give you, and this is really how in the webinars I'll share the tools with you. I'll show you the format, and then I'll show you an example of how it works. The example I'm going to show you tonight is from my business, which is a training business. My customer groups, I've gone with industry sectors, startups, government, corporates, and not-for-profits. I could as easily go with demographic groups, men, women, children, families, as I mentioned before. I could go with postcodes. I could go, whatever makes sense for me to break up my possible customer groups. And by the way, just action precedes clarity. Remember that one? When you learn how to use these tools, just have a go. Show it to somebody, get some feedback, and then start again. Don't try to torture the tool into some sort of shape that fits what's in your head. Actually, just try it out, get some feedback, and then start again. Once you actually learn how to use this, which is going to take about 10 minutes now, you'll be able to do the whole thing in 5 minutes or less. And the same will apply to each of these tools. Once you actually learn how to use it, It'll be really like picking up a hammer if you've got a nail to knock in somewhere, picking up a screwdriver if you've got a screw to unscrew somewhere. It should be as natural as that. So my customers for my training, startups, government, corporates and not-for-profits, and the services, it's a service-based business. If I was selling products, that would be there too. I can design training, I can teach, I can coach, and I can consult. So the ticks are really just seat of pants, natural response. If I think, and this is where the magic of the tool happens, if I think I can sell a particular product or a particular service to a particular customer, I'll put a tick in the box where they intersect. So in the top row, for example, I reckon I can design training for government and sell that to them. And I reckon I can design and sell training to not-for-profits. So I put a tick in each box. Is there anybody who does not understand that? Really important that you get each step right for this tool to work.
Michael, just thinking about the potential wish list idea, I'm not sure how that, like what our product or service groups might be.
I think with a wish list, you could, if I was you, I would categorize different, so I would think about the products, I would think about things, I would think about experiences.
Yeah, okay.
About, yeah, so different categories of deliverable, really ambitious, hardly ambitious at all, doable tomorrow, whatever makes sense to you.
Yeah.
For customer groups, it might be residential care, independent living, small groups, solo, whatever, again, however you would break that up. Men, women, men and women together, etc. Does that make sense, Tammy?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Why is there 2 ticks in the boxes?
Ah, you're one ahead of us. There's always somebody who's just a little bit ahead of me. And it looks like it's going to be you, Jay. I put 2 ticks in a box when I'm really confident that I can sell that product to that customer. So I put a tick in the box if my gut tells me, yeah, I can sell that one to that one. And I put 2 ticks when I'm really confident. Maybe I have some experience, maybe the price is right, whatever the reason is. Now, we look for patterns, and this is the way a lot of the tools will work. We generate some data, we spread it out visually, and we look for patterns. That's what human beings are really good at. So get in your helicopter, look at this from a height, and answer this question. Of the various products that I can offer, which is the column on the left, which one is most important to me right now on this evidence?
Coaching.
Coaching? Thank you. And why?
Because it has the most ticks.
Yeah, I can just add up the ticks, okay? Because I can sell that product into each of those markets, it's going to present as interesting for me. Relative to, say, consultation and research, they got 1 tick. Yeah? Here's a harder question. Which is the most important customer on this evidence?
Startups.
Startups? Because?
Because of all the ticks, you provide more for them.
Yeah, we just add up the number of ticks. But on the other hand, I can only sell 2 products to that customer. I'm confident about them, but I can only sell 2. Government and not-for-profits, I can sell 3. I'm not as confident, but I can sell 3 products. Now, there's no right or wrong answer, in short. What I'm going to get from this tool and from the others is the value I can extract from having a conversation about it. And in fact, one of the best ways to learn these tools is to take them away and teach somebody else. Because to teach somebody else, you've really got to sort of work out what your priorities are and what's the best way of understanding this. So typically, as in the question I just asked, you can have an answer that is neither right nor wrong. It will depend on other circumstances. And that's the point of the perspectives, which is the list on the right. So I'm going to create an overlay, you know, like GPS GIS mapping. You put down your foundation, then you put in the plumbing, then you put in the electrics, etc. This is the money. Forget about where the natural fit what is. Who's got the money for what product? Okay. Now, for a not-for-profit, that might or might not make sense. I noticed with the previous group, some people had a kind of loss leader idea, something that was just going to increase our impact, and that was the value to the business of their activity. But then there was a spin-off fee-for-service idea. So there was a financial element to it in the end as well. And I'd encourage you to think about that way. Even if the value for our customer, Comlink in this case, is social impact, it can also have financial benefit. Why not? So in this case, I look at who's got the money for which product, who's in the market and has money to spend. Now, if I do that, and money is really important to me right at the moment, and often it is, as I said, for startups, one particular customer really presents themselves as important, right? Somebody tell me who that customer is.
Government.
Yeah. So I might or might not like working with the government, but if my business is mostly about the money right now, then I'm going to start looking at government. I have to, because that's where the money is. That's the perspective that's most useful to me right now, beyond just what my gut is telling me. So at the moment, the government's looking pretty good as a customer because I can sell three products to them and they've got a lot of money. Startups, that also looked good a minute ago, if I'm looking through the lens of money, now don't look so good because they haven't got any money, okay? But I'm not going to stop there. As you can see from the list, I'm going to ask myself where my passion is. This is the have fun part, the meaning part. What turns me on about which transactions? Which transactions are fun? Which transactions give me the greatest sense of purpose and meaning? So I put a heart in those boxes. And now, if I'm looking at that customer that looked so good a minute ago, government, it's not looking so good. If my business is about personal meaning and my passion for my business, not-for-profits and startups are starting to look good again, even though they haven't got any money. With Edgeware, make money, have fun, change the world, I want to make a difference. Okay, so I'm putting a smiley face in where I think that transaction actually makes a difference or creates benefit in the world. And government's looking okay again in that respect, because if I can, my thinking here is that if I can influence government, I can influence policy. If I can influence policy, I can create good in the world. Now you'll notice as we go through this that some of these boxes are getting quite crowded and some of them are either empty or fairly uncrowded. And looking at this tool from that perspective, if I'm putting a lot of effort into selling training design to the corporate market, I've got to ask myself why I'm there at all. So this tool can be good for sort of cutting away stuff that is extraneous. Even though I might be passionate about such and such, or there might be money in such and such, it's not useful to me because of such and such. What's useful is not so much just the tool, although this is a tool that I personally use all the time in my business. It really helps me focus and get clear about things. It's not so much the tool, it's the conversation that the tool inspires, you know? When you've written this tool, and this is where Mel and Tammy, it's really useful for you to have that conversation. Look, I think it's just ridiculous trying to sell coaching to startups or whatever. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. And you have this sort of conversation, and through that, you actually learn and refine. So I'd strongly recommend to everybody else that if it's possible, you actually fill out the tool, show it to somebody, get some feedback. Why? Because action precedes clarity. Your person who gives you feedback will give you ideas that you didn't know that you had. Because I'm smart and lazy, I'm interested in the easy thing. So easy things, easy sales are the things that cost least to deliver, that involve traveling the least, that involve less effort and investment, whatever easy means to me. Can I deliver the tool online? That almost always comes up in Edgeware classes because we live in a place called Australia, which is vast at the end of the world. So anything that we can actually put online, we can commercialize. Now that may or may not fit your business idea. It seems to fit Jay's, for example, much easier than it fits other people's. And risk. We'll do some work later in the process on risk analysis and risk management, but this is a negative one. I'm disinclined from the transactions that I see as risky. Now notice that customer we looked at a minute ago, that government customer, looked really so-so when I was just going on the ticks. When I filled in the dollar signs, it looked attractive again. It looked less attractive when I went to the passion. It looked more attractive again when I went to social impact. And now it looks very unattractive because it's actually the riskiest customer. Why is it risky? Because I did this tool actually when Newman was in power in Queensland, and they'd just drawn lines through all sorts of small business and small business training. They say to deal with government is to deal in the fashion industry. So it depends. And finally, down the bottom, I'm going to answer this question: what is my key product and who is my key customer? And that third question, what is the nature of the value that customer sees in the product, by referring to this. So if I'm a startup and I've got the bum out of my pants and I can't pay the rent next week, I'm going to pay particular attention to any square that's got a dollar sign in it. If I'm less worried about the money and I want to make meaning of my life, I'm going to pay attention to the squares that have hearts in them. Whatever it is, I'm going to go through some kind of process of winnowing. I'm aiming for the first pin in those 10 pins in the bowling alley, right? It's not that the other pins are not important, but one of them, thinking 80-20, is going to be more important than the others. And it's going to be more important than the others for a reason. This tool helps me answer 3 of those questions. Question 1, what is it? Question 2, who is it for? Question 3, what is the value? Who it's for, see in what it is. Any questions on that before we move on? Good, I think. This is one of the problems. We're only looking at pictures of you. Some people are looking at the screen, some people are not. You know, who knows? Yes?
I was just going to ask what the question mark other is.
Oh, thank you so much. Jay, you've got somebody who's even quicker than you. Other is whatever I haven't thought of that is relevant to you. So it may well be, in the case of Comlink, longevity. We know that storytelling, just off the top of my head, storytelling, biographical and autobiographical storytelling has been shown to extend the period of lucidity for people, or and put another way, to slow the process of cognitive decline. So longevity, L for longevity, might be one. Which of these transactions actually helps people live longer as a solo in their own? It might be that I'm a halal butcher and I'm interested in those transactions which glorify God, you know? So I might put A for Allah in those. It really depends on you. So excellent question, Emma. Thank you for that. And again, you only do what fits. So if the easy bit or the social impact bit or the risky bit doesn't make sense to you at this stage, just ignore it. Okay, you're not getting marked on quantity here. Excellent question. Thank you, Emma. Anything else? It's so good. Sometimes I'm so used to this stuff that I just forget, you know, I just forget that some people are seeing it for the first time. I'm going to tell you a story about Frank, or Farouk. Did you ever meet him, Amanda? He was a pet in one of our projects because his English is very idiosyncratic. His passport is Turkish, but he will tell you that he's Kurdish. In fact, he will tell you that he's Mesopotamian. He goes back to sort of 3,000 years ago, his family, he reckons. His business was called Taste of Mesopotamia. And I'm going to use this as an example for the next tool. So the first tool is product market analysis tool. This next one is the value proposition tool. And I was in a meeting for 2 hours this afternoon where we were talking value propositions the whole time. That's this one. And this is a lot simpler than this format suggests. I wanted to actually give you an example. This is the way it looks, and this is what you'll have in front of you, hopefully. And this is what eventually you'll fill in as a PDF and upload as part of the Now tools. This is the way Frank, well, it starts for the target customer. Remember, we just spent some time asking who is the key customer and what is the key product? So for that person, whoever that key customer is, who actually has this need, sometimes called a pain point, sometimes an opportunity, the product is a kind of product that satisfies that need. That's one sentence. For the customer who has that need or who shows me that opportunity, my product does this. Second sentence, and this answers that fourth question, what makes it different? Unlike other products in my marketplace, I do it this way. This is my secret sauce. So this is what it looked like for Frank. Taste of Mesopotamia is ground up roasted wild pistachio nuts that are infused in water, and they make a coffee substitute drink. And while it's free of caffeine, it actually has a chemical in it that's a vasodilator that works a bit like Viagra, so it can be seen to be an aphrodisiac. That's his product, and he was selling it at markets with a view to actually planting and importing and sending money home, a whole bunch of stuff. So his key customer was middle-class professionals, coffee tragics, people like me who really have a sort of quite snobbish attitude to coffee. For those people who are looking for a change in their regular brew, because I'm just drinking too much coffee and I'm wired, Taste of Mesopotamia is a healthy alternative drink that picks me up without using caffeine, full stop. Unlike other coffees, our product is made from wild pistachio nuts, and some say it's an aphrodisiac. So in 2 sentences, what he says there is those 4 things. What it is, who it's for, what the value, who it's for sees in what it is, and how it's different. Now, this is typically really simple and really difficult. People, bless you, people come back to this again and again and again. And it's not unusual for people to finish the course working on a business idea that's quite different from the one they started with. And this course suits that, because once you know how to use these tools, you can come back and it only takes you a few minutes to play with it. The trick here is to get something that's really simple. Now, I can speak from experience. People, once they've learned how to put these 2 sentences together, it appears on the splash pages of websites, it appears on the back of business cards. It is your elevator pitch, as the famous term goes. You walk into an elevator, your dream investor or grant maker walks into the elevator, presses G for ground, turns to you and says, tell me about your business. You've got 3 floors to answer the question. This tool allows you to do that. So just put in ordinary English, that's what Frank's value proposition is. That's what he will tell us in 1 sentence, in 2 sentences, makes his business so special. Any questions about that one? Is that somebody turning off their microphone? No. I'm hearing silence, which I take as a good thing. Third and final tool for tonight, and you've been very good. Thank you for your patience.
Michael, can I just ask a quick question back on the other one?
Yep.
The unlike section, what if your product is...
Okay, not competing with anybody.
Yeah.
Again, that's an excellent question. It's really a statement of differentiation. The jargon term is USP, unique service proposition. It's still important to differentiate your product, and you don't need to stick to exactly this language. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can say product name is unique because. Yeah?
Yeah.
You don't need to name the competition. And in fact, sometimes in marketing terms, it's unhealthy to name the competition. A, because you're giving them screen time, and B, because you're seen as negative and churlish, you know?
Yeah.
But you do need to tell me why it's different, why I should pay attention. In your case, for example, you might end up chasing grant money, and that's a competitive process. So even though you're not necessarily feeling that you're competing with somebody, that money's going to go somewhere.
Mm.
Thanks for the question. Any others?
Can I just say to that too, Michael, with your idea, Tammy, have I got that right? Yeah. With your idea, Tammy, it might also be that you're competing with apathy or inertia, or, you know, why should I get off and do my bucket list? Or you might also be competing with, you know, on a kind of or a slightly left of field thing, negativity. Like, oh no, you're too old for that. So, you know, you could actually even like look at some of those competitiveness within your actual client.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Some of
Does
the
that
language.
work, Michael?
Yes, thank you. Some of the language that you choose for this 2 sentences can be very important because it points to the language that you will use in your marketing. When you think about marketing, and we'll talk more about this further, as getting the message about the value of your thing, your product, to your customer, then the most clear, simple, and effective way to do that becomes important for you. Things like fonts, words, these sorts of things are very important, no matter what market you're in. Now, at different times we can have different customers. I don't want to make this too complex, but sometimes a customer can have a customer. So sometimes if the end user, the ultimate beneficiary of our thing of value, of our service, is an elderly person living alone, the person who's buying the service may not be that person. It might be somebody else in the family. Sometimes our customers can have customers. We did a workshop with women like Logan Women's Health Service, and I asked them the question, who are your customers? And they said, well, the women of Logan. And I asked them, do the women of Logan pay your wages? Well, no, government does. In that case, government was a customer of that organisation, as well as the women of Logan. So they needed a value proposition for their principal customer, the women of Logan, come and use our service, and another value proposition for that customer's customer, government, that showed the government how it was valuable for them, for their purpose. So I don't want to over complicate things, but sometimes just remember, customers can have customers. And this is the final one, customer success. And this is quite different. This tool is an elaboration on what the previous cohort worked on. I told you right at the beginning that I'd use this word success a lot, and this is a tool about that. And it comes from we'd hear about, you know, like the song says, keep your customer satisfied. I will be successful when my customer is satisfied with my service, and that's more or less useful. Of course, your customer should be satisfied, but what is it to ask the question, what is success for my customer? So when I asked you that question at the start of this session, I got various answers, which I boiled down to clarity and action. You know, I will be successful when I have clarity, or whatever. So I list my customers down on the left. In the case of Frank's customers, it's middle-class professionals all the way down. You might have a range of customers, doesn't matter. Then Then I ask myself the question, what is success for that customer? So I might be selling, say, a lawnmower, you know? How on earth can a lawnmower help somebody be successful? Let's say my key product is a lawnmower, my key customer is a suburban dad, you know? What is success for a suburban dad, and how can a lawnmower help him become more successful? One answer to that might be social status. You know, he's got the brand new flashy lawnmower that does such a good job on his lawn that all the other suburban dads are jealous, and he feels good about himself that way. Another success factor might be time with his family. So the lawnmower does such a terrific job, and it does it so quickly and efficiently and never breaks down. So he can spend more time with his family. He can be a more successful dad. Success gives us more information than satisfaction. So here's the same question put 3 different ways about Frank's key customer, which is these middle class professional coffee snobs, people like me. Look at the first row across the top. We haven't got time to unpack the whole tool, but I'd invite you to revise this later. One of the things we value, middle class professionals value, is health and well-being. We're the people that buy the self-help books and enroll in gyms and etc. First question then, if health and well-being is the success factor for that key customer, what am I doing already, or what might my business do in my imagination that supports that sense of success? In Frank's case, he just uses the pure ground pistachio nuts, nothing else, no other additives. So that's what he does that supports the customer's value of success. How does the customer notice that? What is it in the customer's world where that becomes apparent? Well, I sell them this drink at the stall. They taste it and they can see that I've ground it from those nuts and etc. Next question, what else can you do to help that customer feel successful? And Frank's response, write an ingredient list. I can actually show them on my packaging that it's just the nuts, no added anything. How will that be noticeable? So how will that second thing that you can do? What the tool is doing, be noticeable. What the tool is doing is to really drill down and try to answer the question, what action can I take that's going to make my customer or help my customer feel more successful? Action precedes clarity. I'm going to be looking to milk these tools as far as I can now from this point onwards for actions. And I'm going to be looking for actions that I can pull out of this, because eventually I'm going to use those in my how section. Those are my to-do, those become my to-do list. So in Frank's case, he will notice, because he's put the ingredients on his packaging, that they are taking home the packaging and talking about it with family and friends, that it's a good marketing move, in other words. It doesn't just rely on the experience of meeting him personally at his stall at the markets. They actually take some delicious pistachio nut coffee home, make a joke with their friends about aphrodisiacs, and drink more of it and come back for more. Is anybody unclear about how this tool works? Good, I think. If you're a bit thing about piping up in these meetings, and there is or if there's a question that occurs to you between our sessions, then please call me or email me. It's my success factor in this process for you not only to complete this course satisfactorily, but for you to get something on the ground that you can be proud of. And I will work with you, that's my promise, and Amanda will too, to help you make that happen. So tonight we've gone, I've probably raved at you a bit too much about the background, but I really, really think it's important for you to understand that this is not the usual suspects when it comes to education process. It's not my job to teach you anything. It's my job to create an environment where you can learn. And that's really the point of the whole process. The responsibility for the learning that happens out of this is yours. It's not mine. I'm here to facilitate that and to help that. But ultimately, the success of this process is going to be your success. In a similar way, negatively, the failure of this process will be your failure. In both cases, I'd like to take some responsibility, but ultimately, it's about you realizing something about yourself. The final slide is just a whole bunch of links where you can get in touch with me if you need to. Now, we're not going to meet. We'll check out in a second and hopefully finish on time-ish. We're not going to meet again. Normally, we'd meet fortnightly, but I'm delighted to be able to tell you that on Monday, Ludmilla and I are getting on a plane and going to New Zealand for a holiday. And while I am there, I'm not going to think about this at all. So we're only going to meet, the next time we meet will be in 3 weeks' time. But otherwise, it'll be fortnightly on that schedule that I shared with you right at the beginning. So, check out. Somebody, some brave soul checks out first, then throws to somebody else. Just a couple sentences. What's on my mind now? Boy, I need a drink. I'm going to have this for dinner. Anything, doesn't have to be about any of the tools or anything. Just to get your head out of this space and back into reality. Who'd like to go first?
I thought it was really good. Exciting hearing everyone else's things. And I just want to say, Steph, Mel and I are both often in North Brisbane. We're happy to be your little buddies and chat to you anytime.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Only because you're so cute.
Mel, while we're looking at that screen, you want to check out? Mel, why don't you check out?
Oh, it was clearly it's time to check out. I thought it was great, Michael. A lot to absorb and think about, and different ways to look at our ideas. So it's very exciting.
Thank you. Now throw to somebody else.
Steph.
Thanks. It's a lot to take in, but it makes it a bit easier to understand, I think. I can put what I'm thinking down on paper more so than what I could before.
Thank you. And throw to somebody else.
Jade.
You've got to turn your mic on, Jay.
I thought everyone's ideas were really, really good. And they're exciting. Just hearing some of them, I can see how each of them could really benefit the clients, but also Comlink and everyone else. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm probably more confused about mine than ours.
We all feel that, Jay.
Chris.
Thanks, Jay. Again, yeah, like everyone else, excited, overwhelmed. I love everyone's ideas also. It's going to be a great journey, and I'm really looking forward to it. Paul.
Thanks. Look, I again really enjoyed tonight's get together and hearing everyone's fantastic ideas. I've personally started to go off on a slightly different tangent again, which I have thus far, and I might be having a conversation, I would think, with Michael in the next couple of days, just to try and see whether I'm on the right pathway as far as where I want to head. So, but tonight was great about really helping me to, I guess, gel in my mind what wasn't going to work with my idea. Yeah, anyway, we'll see where it goes.
Cool, thank you.
I'll put it over to Jeff. No, you've spoken. Amanda, there you go.
It was lovely meeting everyone tonight. I mean, I've worked with these tools a lot over the years, but it's just nice to hear Michael share them again. The last couple of times I've taught them myself. So it's nice to hear Michael's teaching again. And I have a 13-week-old puppy who's been causing all sorts of trouble.
Oh, show us.
Oh, you want to see her?
Yes.
So I want to go and rescue Matt in a second, but hold on, I'll go grab her. But she's been getting into all sorts of mischief. Hold on.
You don't even have to be a dog lover to like this.
Emma, do you want to check out?
Okay. The dog is going to interrupt you. Like when the dog's here, you know that, don't you? Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. I was just going to say, yeah, it was great to hear everyone's ideas. And Michael's line on action precedes clarity. Just start writing shit down. There's no better way to put it. Because, you know, when you write stuff down, it clarifies stuff.
Look, baby golden retriever.
So she's actually going to probably be a pet therapy dog at some point. But she's
Steph's dog too.
she's trouble at the moment, and she's yeah. So well, yeah, she's very cute, but she's also hard work.
That's lovely. Thanks, Emma. And a great comment to finish with. But just final word to me, as per usual, just a couple of things. Like Jay's saying, confused, you know, foggy, whatever. Paul's saying, might have to think again. Both of those are entirely natural. In fact, it's useful to feel like that. Trust the process. The clarity will actually come, and it'll come through the processing that we do together. Oh, that dog is just so gorgeous. We've got 3 weeks now. Now, the 3 tools that I shared with you tonight, as I said at the beginning, are probably the 3 simplest and most difficult tools, because if you can get those 3 right, then you've got a business. It's really as simple as that. The rest is detail. The rest is marketing, pricing, the whole sort of the limbs and flourishes. But if you remember that why, how, what, those 3 concentric circles right at the beginning, these 3 tools really help you complete that overview of your business in a very simple and highly impactful way. Trust me on this, they're that important. It's really easy to overwrite, like Emma's absolutely right, get shit down, but then harvest, pull out the stuff that's most useful, because only 20% of that stuff is going to be useful to you. Any final comments from anyone?
Have fun. That's the other thing too. Like, I know this feels really heady, but this is, it's really fun when you're starting out ideas and growing them. This is where you can have a play, you know, like have some fun with this. Like, you know, you're all going to change the world. All of the ideas you said will literally change people's lives. So yeah, don't forget to have fun with this.
Thanks, Amanda. Well, I will think about all of you from the top of the Franz Glacier.
No, you won't.
No. And I'll look forward to taking up the conversation again in 3 weeks, and I will be occasionally around on email if you'd like to ask me something. Thanks, everybody. Lovely to meet you. It was great fun.
Thank you. Have a good holiday.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.